The 7th generation of consoles was most definitely an interesting time for gaming. While Microsoft and Sony chose to do more of the same thing with the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, Nintendo did the unthinkable with their Wii console. The Wii shocked pretty much everyone, becoming one of the best-selling consoles of all time and selling over 100 million units. Nintendo's previous console, the GameCube, only sold 1/5 of this number. A question I intend on answering today is why the Wii became so successful. You may recall that my very first episode of the Varlo Show revolved around answering this very question. This month, October 2022, marks the 5-year anniversary of the Varlo Show as a whole. To celebrate how far this dumb little internet show has come, I thought it would be fun to revisit the first ever topic I ever covered and do it in a more modern style. I also think that this video will help to do the topic further justice since my original video isn't the highest quality. Without further ado, let's get right into analyzing what made the Wii so successful. I think an important place to start when looking at this question is figuring out what drove Nintendo to create the Wii in the way that they did in the first place. It's no surprise that the GameCube was Nintendo's second worst selling home console of all time. While it was a great system and was powerful enough to compete with the original Xbox and PS2, Nintendo really dropped the ball with some aspects of this system. The main thing that was flawed was the GameCube's use of mini DVDs. Nintendo employed the use of this format to slow down piracy for the system, but in turn it ended up crippling the amount of third-party support the system received. The GameCube's discs could only hold 1.5 gigabytes of data as opposed to the PS2 and Xbox's 4.7 gigabytes of storage. This file size discrepancy made it harder for third-party developers to fit their games onto the GameCube. This ended up hurting the GameCube a lot in the long run. In 2002, Nintendo projected that the GameCube would sell 50 million units by the end of its lifetime. We now know that it didn't even sell half of that estimate. This financial loss for Nintendo was most likely the catalyst for the Wii's development. Nintendo probably felt like they would be able to get ahead if they tried something different. A main draw for the Wii is how unique it was at the time. A system that was focused on motion controls as the primary control method had never been seen at all up until that point. This was such a successful concept for Nintendo that both Microsoft and Sony tried to emulate this control system with the Kinect and the PlayStation Move. This unheard of control scheme was innovative. It was incredibly easy for players to pick up the controller and grasp what they were meant to do with it. This was another one of the Wii's strong suits. The Wii was easy to pick up and play for people of all ages. Nintendo decided to try something new with this console generation and target a casual audience. A perfect example of this is how they bundled Wii Sports with all Wii systems. Wii Sports had such a varied collection of sports, so it was bound for everyone to like at least one of the included sports. Even applications such as Wii Fit were targeted to a much broader audience than what Nintendo products were normally geared toward. The Wii was appealing to all types of demographics because of its ease of use. A traditional game controller alienates some people because of the complexities of the controller and the amount of buttons it has. The Wii Remote streamlined this by only having a few buttons on it, with the rest being left to motion controls. The Wii grew really popular with older people, specifically because of how accessible it was. There was even a rumor that Queen Elizabeth had her own share of fun playing Wii bowling back in the day. The decision to focus on the casual market instead of hardcore gamers was probably confusing to Nintendo fans at the time, but in the long run, it helped to solidify the Wii's success. Another major pillar of the Wii's success was its excellent marketing. Nintendo launched a $200 million ad campaign for the Wii. This included commercials, in-store kiosks, and other forms of advertisement. These advertisements made sure that the public knew what the Wii was and why they should care. An important aspect of the Wii's marketing was showing the all-ages demographic that we spoke about earlier. Most of the Wii's marketing showcases people of all ages playing the system. This perfectly demonstrated that the Wii was for everyone and not just gamers. Their marketing also highlighted the Wii's low price point of $249.99. The Wii had a much lower cost of entry compared to its competitors. On top of that, the online component of the Wii was not behind an additional paywall. The games for the Wii were also cheaper than competitors. Starting with the 7th generation of consoles, $60 became the normal price for a brand new game. The Wii's games were slightly cheaper than this, sitting at $50. However, despite all of this, I believe that the Wii's greatest strength was its games. The Wii had games geared toward every kind of player. Games like Wii Sports and Mario Kart were there to entice casual players, whilst the likes of Metroid and Zelda were there for Nintendo's more hardcore audience. There was even a plethora of shooter games, believe it or not. Nintendo started the Wii on the right foot by releasing The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on the launch day of the system. They did something unheard of for the Zelda series at the time. They chose to release Twilight Princess on both Wii and the GameCube. Twilight Princess was originally a GameCube exclusive title, but Nintendo used it to give the Wii an extra boost at launch. While Twilight Princess was originally a GameCube game, it was actually released on the Wii first. The game was released in North America on the Wii's launch date, November 19, 2006. The GameCube version of the game arrived on store shelves the next month. It was a good move making Twilight Princess a temporary Wii exclusive because it influenced big Nintendo fans to buy the Wii to play the newest Zelda game early. Those are just a few of the reasons that I believe the Wii was able to surpass expectations and become one of the most successful home consoles of all time. Nintendo spent a lot of time on the marketing and logistics of their system to ensure that they would not have a repeat of the GameCube era. The Wii marked a shift in the way that Nintendo approached their consoles. The success of the Wii is definitely something that can still be felt in Nintendo's latest endeavors. It triggered a shift to a more casual audience where they could innovate freely and not have to compete with Microsoft or Sony. This approach has definitely acted in their favor because with the exception of the Wii U, all of Nintendo's modern systems have been major successes. The charm of this stupid little game console is probably why so many people remember it so fondly. I definitely can speak for millions of people when I say that the Wii provided so many of us with gaming memories that'll last for a lifetime. I remember coming home from school as a child and the first thing I would do is play games like Mario Kart, or Zelda, or even LEGO Star Wars on the Wii. I would get lost in these game worlds for hours on end. As silly as it may sound, the Wii helped to shape me in the things that I enjoy in video games. The Wii even led to me discovering Xenoblade Chronicles, which ended up becoming my favorite game of all time. A console that could have been make or break for Nintendo after the failure of the GameCube ended up meaning so much to so many people. It's hard to say if Nintendo will ever be able to fully replicate these feelings that so many of us have for the Wii. I think what it really comes down to isn't really what the system actually is and what kind of graphics it can produce, or how big the games can be, or how it was marketed. It's really about all the good memories that each individual forms on their own thanks to this system. That's why I believe that the Wii was Nintendo's greatest success story in their entire history.